Yes, good morning everybody. Now we are going to deal unit number 4, income from salaries. Income from salaries deals the section number 15 to 17. Under this chapter, we cover the following topics. One is meaning of head salary, what are included in salary, deductions under section 16. Next, types of provident funds and their tax treatment, types of allowances, types of perquisites, meaning of profits in lieu of salary. So first one is meaning of head salary. So section 15 discuss the meaning of head salary. So salary may be received or receivable, or it may be arrears of salary, or it may be advance salary. That is from former employer or present employer, whatever it may be. So for the purpose of chargeability of tax, salary consists of the following. One is the due basis, second one is paid or allowed basis, third one is arrears basis. Any salary due from an employer for former employer or present employer to an assessee in the previous year, whether actually paid or not. Second one is paid, that is allowed basis. Any salary paid or allowed to him in the previous year or on behalf of employer or a former employer, though not due or before it becomes due, which means it is advance salary. Third one is arrears basis. Any arrears of salary paid or allowed to him in the previous year by or on behalf of employer or former employer, if not charged to tax for any earlier previous year, which means income which is not taxed in previous year, if comes in this present as previous year, that will be put to tax. So in short, head salary means it includes current year salary or arrears of salary which falls in the previous years which are not taxed. Next to advance salary which falls in the next year or years. Next one is what are included in salary. So according to section 17, salary includes wages, any annuity or pension, gratuity, any fees, commission, perquisites or profits in lieu of or in addition to any salary or wages, any advance salary, any payment received by an employee in respect of any period of leave not availed by him, which we called leave salary, employer's contribution to RPF in excess of 12% of employee's salary, and interest credited to RPF balance in excess of 9.5%. The aggregate of all sums that comprise in the transferred balance of an employee participating in a recognized provident fund to the extent to which it is chargeable to tax, which means transfer balance to provident fund, recognized provident fund. Next one is the contribution made by central government in the previous year to the account under notified pension scheme referred to in section 80 CCB. So these are all included in salary under section 17. Next, deductions under section 16. So here we have 3 deductions allowable from gross salary. One is standard deduction Section 16, Clause 1. A standard deduction of 50,000 rupees or amount of salary, whichever is less, shall be allowed. Second one is entertainment allowance. Entertainment allowance basically is a fully taxable allowance. But if an employee is a government employee, he can claim under Section 16, Clause 2. So, least of the following is exempted. One is actual allowance received, 1/5 of basic salary, statutory limit 5,000. Out of these three, whichever is less is allowed. Next one is professional tax. Any amount of professional tax is paid by employee or by his employer is allowed as deduction under Section 16, Clause 3. Clause 3. Next, types of provident funds and their tax treatment. Generally, government want to encourage savings for social security of the employees. Government set up various provident funds. If a person saves money, what will be the results? So, if a person saves amount in various savings schemes, that is useful to himself as well as the government also, as well as the nation also. Why? Because when a person deposited the amount in various savings schemes, there is a return comes to the depositor, and it will lead to the national development. Say, whenever a person saves amount, that goes to financial institutions. Financial institutions gave loans to various industrialists. So that's why when industries are established, so the employment opportunities will increase. When employment opportunities increases, the per capita income of the nation will increase. Automatically, the nation will develop. So that's why whenever a person deposits some amount in various savings schemes, that is benefited to the depositor as well as the nation. So that's why to encourage the savings habit in the public, government suggests 4 types of provident funds. One is a statutory provident fund, second one is recognized provident fund, third one is unrecognized provident fund, fourth one is public provident fund. One, statutory provident fund. It is a older type of provident fund which is constituted in the year 1925. So this is meant for government and semi-government department like railways, Reserve Bank of India, colleges, universities, next to insurance companies, State Bank of India and its subsidiaries, etc. Second one is recognized provident fund. A provident fund which is recognized by the Commissioner of Income Tax is called recognized provident fund. What is unrecognized provident fund? A provident fund which is not recognized by the Commissioner of Income Tax is called unrecognized provident fund. So next one is public provident fund. Public provident fund means it can be started by any self-employed people. Lawyers, accountants, actors, drivers, pensioners or rickshaw pullers, whoever it may be, can start its provident fund. So the interested people can open their account in State Bank of India and its subsidiaries. Next, tax treatment of provident funds. So we consider 4 items under this for tax treatment of provident fund. One is own contribution of employee. Second one is contribution made by employer. Third one is interest credited to the accumulated balance. Fourth one is refund or transfer balance. For statutory provident fund, if an employee contributes by its own, it is qualifies under section 80C. 80C meant for savings. Suppose if employer contributes to statutory provident fund, it is fully exempted. Any interest is credited to this statutory provident fund, that is also fully exempted. Suppose if there is any transfer balance or any refund, that is fully exempted. Whereas in case of recognized provident fund, so what is recognized provident fund? A provident fund which is recognized by the Commissioner of Income Tax is called recognized provident fund. Suppose if a person contributes to RPF, that is also qualifies under section 80C. Under section 80C. If contribution made by employer for the employee, it is exempted to the extent of 12% of employee's salary. Under RPF, salary means basic plus DA which enters into pay, which we call DP, plus fixed percentage of commission on turnover achieved. Next one is interest credited to RPF, recognized provident fund balance, is exempted to the extent of 9.5%. Excess will be put to tax. Suppose if any refund comes from recognized provident fund, it is exempted in all cases except when employee leaves services on his own account before completion of 5 years. So if an employee leaves the organization less than 5 years, so that is taxable. The others are exempted. Next, in case of unrecognized provident fund. So what is unrecognized provident fund? A provident fund which is not recognized by the Commissioner of Income Tax is called unrecognized provident fund. So if employee contributes to URPF, it is not qualifies under section 80C. Suppose if employer contributes to URPF, that is ignored for its time being. Suppose interest credited to URPF balance, that is also ignored. Next, if any refund is received, that is to be added to salary income, and we can claim relief under section 89(1). Next, types of allowance. So what is allowance? Allowance is a monetary benefit given by employer to employee to meet the particular expenditure. Suppose for example, HRA, house rent allowance is given by employer to employee, that is to be used for payment of house rent. Fixed medical allowance given by employer to employee, that is used for medical expenses. Uniform allowance. Suppose if employer gives uniform allowance to employee, he has to purchase uniform for the purpose of his duties. So like that, any monetary benefit given by employer to employee to meet the particular expenditure is called allowance. So allowances are of three types. One is fully exempted allowance, fully taxable allowances, next partly taxable allowances. First one, fully exempted allowances. Foreign allowance given by government to its employees posted abroad is fully exempted. HRA, house rent allowance given to Supreme Court judges and High Court judges is fully exempted. Any sumptuary allowance given to judges of Supreme Court, High Court is fully exempted. Next one is fully taxable allowance, that is DA, dearness allowance. So this is also known as high cost of living index. High cost of living index. Suppose if you consider government employees, When price index increases, which means the price of commodities increases, the employees demand more DA. So that's why it is called high cost of living index. So if cost of living increases, so the employees demands more DA, high rate of DA. Overtime allowance, city compensatory allowance, project allowance, tiffin allowance, meals allowance, cash allowance, given for marriage allowance, family allowance, next to holiday allowance, etc. Non-practicing allowances. So these are all fully taxable. Wardenship allowance, servant allowance, fixed medical allowance, entertainment allowance, water and electricity allowance, transport allowance, next to allowance to chairman or retired chairman or retired member of UPSC, Union Public Service Commission. Next one, partly taxable allowances. First one is very important for 5 marks. House rent allowance. House rent allowance given to Supreme Court judges and High Court judges is fully exempted. HRA is fully taxable. If an SSC living in his own house or in a house, no rent is paid. In other cases, least of the following is exempted. 1. Actual allowance received, rent paid minus 10% of salary, 40% of salary, 50% of salary in case of Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras. Here salary means basic pay plus DP. DP means DA which enters into pay or DA part of salary. DA is added for all practical purposes. If any of these three uses in the problem, that is what we call DP, dearness pay, and fixed percentage of commissioner turnover achieved. Next, the following allowances are exempted to the actual expenditure incurred for employment. So that is helper allowance, uniform allowance, academic research allowance, conveyance allowance, travelling allowance. So these are the allowances which are exempted to the extent of actual expenditure. Next, tribal area allowance. It is exempted up to 200 per month if received in states of Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Tripura, Assam, West Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Next, running or flight allowance. It is given to transportation system who are working in running staff. It is exempted to the extent of 70% of such allowance or 10,000 per month, whichever is less. Transport allowance. So recently it is allowed only for handicapped or blind employees. It is exempted to 3,200 per month. So for others it is ignored. Children education allowance, it is exempted up to 100 rupees per month per child, maximum 2. Hostel allowance, it is exempted up to 300 per month per child, maximum 2 children. Next, types of perquisites. Perquisite means it is the facility given by employer to employee. It may be cash or kind. Cash means it is reimbursed by employer. So here the substitute for HRA is rent-free accommodation. Rent-free accommodation. So HRA is allowance. Rent-free accommodation is perquisite. So the employer provides house by himself to the employees. For example, if railway quarters are provided to the employees. If government allows HRA, he has to stay outside the quarters. If employee opts government quarters, so that becomes rent-free accommodation. So HRA will not be given. So perquisites are of three types. One is exempted for all employees. Second one is taxable for all elements, taxable for all employees, and taxable in specified cases. So here also exempted income, exempted perquisites are very, very important. First one is free medical facility. If treatment is taken from a hospital owned by employer or maintained by employer, it is fully exempted. If treatment is taken from a hospital maintained by government, whether it is state government, central government or local authority, whatever it may be, it is fully exempted. Medical facility outside India is fully exempted to the extent of amount permitted by 2 lakhs, permitted by amount given by RP. So it is allowed only for those employees whose gross total income does not exceed 2 lakhs. In such a case, one attendant is also permitted along with the patient. Free refreshments supplied by employer to its employees during office hours in office premises, except free meals. Free meals given at remote area or offshore installation shall be. Free recreation facilities provided by the employer to its employees. Provision for telephone, including mobile phone, given by employer to employee. Free education, which is provided by employer for its own resources, provided value of such benefit does not exceed 1,000 per month per child. Cost of refresher course attended by employee met by employer, whether in India or abroad. Any rent-free residential accommodation to Supreme Court judges and High Court judges. Goods sold by an employer to his employees at concessional rates. Free ration received by members of armed forces. Perquisites allowed by government to its employees posted abroad. Rent-free house given to an officer of parliament, a union minister, and leader of opposition party of the parliament. Next, conveyance facilities to judges of Supreme Court and High Court. Free conveyance provided by employer to employee for going to or coming from place of employment. Any amount contributed by employer towards pension or deferred annuity scheme. Next, employer's contribution to staff group insurance scheme. Computer, laptops given to an employee for official or personal use. Transfer of mobile assets. Mobile assets means which we can transfer from one place to another place. That is computers, cars or electronic items which had a life of more than 10 years to an employee without consideration. That is also tax-free perquisite. The accident insurance premium paid by employer for his own benefit. Interest-free loan taken by an employer from his employer does not exceed 20,000. If loan taken for treatment of notified illness and no claim is received from insurance company, it is fully exempted. Income tax on perquisites if paid by employer. So these are all exempted perquisites. Next one is taxable for all employees. For this purpose, employees are divided into two categories. One is government employees and another one is non-government employees. In case of government employees, perquisite value being rent fixed by the government or license fees. Whereas in case of non-government employees, it is divided into three categories. One is owned by employer, hired by employer, hotel accommodation. So suppose if house is owned by employer, then we go for population. If population of the city is less than or equal to 10 lakhs, the perquisite value being 7.5% of salary. If population of the city is more than 10 lakhs but less than or equivalent to 25 lakhs, the perk value being 10% of salary. If population is more than 25 lakhs, perk value being 15% of salary. So here salary, suppose if accommodation is taken on hire by employer, which means not owned by employer, the perk value being 15% of salary or actual rent paid, whichever is less. So these are the values for rent-free accommodation. Suppose if it is furnished accommodation, so 10% of furniture cost or higher charges of furniture will be added to the above value. Suppose if anything is deducted from employee's salary for this purpose, rent-free accommodation will become concessional rent accommodation, not rent-free. If anything is collected from employee, then it becomes concessional accommodation. So here salary means basic plus DP plus commission plus bonus plus all taxable allowances. So salary is, the meaning of salary is differ from different situations. In case of entertainment allowance, we have to take only basic salary. In case of HRA and RPF, we have to take basic plus DP plus fixed percentage of commission on turnover achieved. Whereas in case of rent-free accommodation, here salary means basic plus DP plus commission plus bonus plus all taxable allowances. Next one is for hotel accommodation. So the accommodation should be more than 15 days. The perk value being actual bill or 24% of salary, whichever is less. Next, obligations of employee met by employer. So the bills comes on the name of employee. If it is paid by employer, that is what we called obligations met by employer on behalf of employee. First one is gas and electricity bill, education bill of children, income tax of employees, professional tax of employee, salary of servants employed by employee. Next one is any other bill or personal expense is in the employee paid by employer. Any other fringe benefits given by employer to employee. So these are all taxable in case of all employees. Third category is taxable in specified employees. Specified employees. Who is a specified employee? Specified employee means he must be a director of a company, or a person must have substantial interest in the company, which means having 20% of voting rights in the company, and whose salary exceeds 50,000 rupees per annum after deductions under section 16, that is 16(1) standard deduction, 16(2) entertainment allowance, 16(3) professional tax. So such a person, any one of these is called specified employee. So in case of specified employees, so the following perquisites are taxable. One is motor car, another one is motor car. Car is fully used in the performance of official duties of the employee. So whenever a facility is given by employer to employee, if it is used for official purposes, it is fully exempted. Car is fully used for private purposes, it is fully taxable. taxable. So the cost of perquisite being actual expenses incurred by employer, salary of driver, next wear and tear of the car, which means depreciation on car, that is to the extent of 10%. By adding these three, is put to tax. If anything is collected from the employee, that is to be deducted. That is to be deducted. If car is used for partly for official purposes, partly for private purposes, partly for private purposes, which is ill-defined, which we cannot decide. Suppose if it is decided by the officer, income tax officer, which means it is used 50% for personal, 50% for official use, 75% for official use, 25% for personal use, 75% for personal use, 25% for official use, 60% for personal use, 40% for professional use. So if we define in such a way, so the portion of personal use will be put to tax. Personal use will be put to tax. If we are not defined in such a manner, that is taxable in the following cases. Suppose if car is less than 1.6 liters capacity or less than 1600 cubic capacity or 16 HP horsepower capacity, so that is the value of perquisite will be 1800 per month. 1800 per month. If car is more than 16 HP, more than 1.6 liters capacity, more than 1600 cc, the value of perquisite shall be 2400. Next, whereas these are for only expenses met by employee. Suppose if expenses met by employee, if it is a small car, that is 600. Suppose if it is big car, that is 800. For all cases, driver salary should be 900 per month. Next, car is owned by employee, but its running and maintenance expenses are met or car reimbursed by employer. Suppose car is not provided by employer. So SSC owning a car and he used the car and the running and maintenance expenses are met by employer. So here, if it is fully used for official purposes, the perquisite value is nil. If it is fully used for private purposes, the amount which is reimbursed by employer is fully taxable. Or if it is used partly for personal and partly for private official purposes, so the same treatment will be considered. Same treatment in previous case will be considered. Next, other one is free use of car between official and residence. So that is no need. Water and electricity and gas. So if procured from outside agency, if gas is procured from outside agency, if gas is procured from electricity procured from outside agency, water is procured from outside agency, amount paid outside agency is the value of perquisite. So suppose if it is owned by employer, suppose if you take VTPS, that is produced by the organization, by the employer. So manufacturing cost per unit will be put to tax. Anything is paid by employee, that is to be deducted and it is put to tax only in case of specified employees. Next point is gas, electricity, water or household consumption and the connection in the name of employee. So it is what we called obligations met by employer on behalf of employee. Suppose if the connection is on the name of employee, it is put to tax in case of specified employees. So it is not taxable in others. Next, above facility provided in any other manner, taxable in specified cases, not taxable in other non-specified employees. Next one is free education facility for member of employment household, where the educational institution maintained or owned by employer. The cost of education in a similar institution in or nearby locality, and excess of 1,000 will be put to taxable. 1,000, excess of 1,000 per month will be put to tax. Provision of free or concessional education facility in any other case, amount of expenditure incurred by employer in that behalf is taxable. Suppose free domestic servant, sweeper, gardener and watchman. If it is employed by employer, their salary will be put to tax in case of specified employees. Suppose in case of gardener, if house is provided by his own, which means house is owned by employer, gardener salary will be added to paid rental value of the accommodation. So that is not put to tax. Gardener salary is taxable if it is not owned by employer. It is taxable only in case of specified employees. Suppose if these servants are employed by employee and their salary is paid by employer, it is fully taxable in all employees, which means it is called obligations met by employer on behalf of employee. Free transport, if conveyance is hired or ticket is purchased or employed, actual expenses are taxable. If anything collected from employee, that is to be deducted. Next, profits in lieu of salary. Profits in lieu of salary includes any compensation received from present or past employer during the relevant previous year, on termination of service or on modification of terms of service. Next, any other payment received from present or past employers, present or past employer under section 10 subsection 10, section 10 subsection 10a, section 10 subsection 10aa, section 10 subsection 10b, section 10 subsection 13, section 10 subsection 13a, which includes gratuity, retrenchment compensation, leave encashment, leave travel concession. Next to gratuity, pension, leave travel concession. Next to commutation of pension. So these are all come under this. So any payment out of provident fund to the extent it is taxable. So these are all come under profits in lieu of salary. Profits in lieu of salary. Thank you one and all.